The darkness of space lit up with flashes of red and orange as the orbital platforms around New Haven exploded one by one. Captain Jack Reynolds stood frozen on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the destruction unfold on the main screen. His knuckles turned white as he gripped the edge of the command console. "Sir, we're counting 12 enemy ships," said Officer Pete, his voice shaking slightly. "They came out of nowhere. No warning." Jack nodded, his face grim. New Haven was supposed to be safe, a peaceful colony on the edge of human space. 3 million people lived on the planet below, most of them families of miners and farmers who wanted a fresh start away from the crowded Earth. "Any response from the defense stations?" Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir. They were taken out in the first wave," replied Lucy, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "I'm trying to reach Colonial Command, but there's too much interference. The Defiance wasn't supposed to be fighting anyone today. It was an experimental ship on its first shakedown cruise, carrying new technology that hadn't yet been approved for the main fleet. Jack and his crew of 40 had been ordered to put the ship through its paces near the outer colonies. Nothing more." "What about other military vessels in the area?" Jack asked. Tom, the tactical officer, shook his head. "Nothing, Captain. We're it." A new alert sounded, and all eyes turned to the main screen. One of the alien ships, larger than the others, was broadcasting a message. Lucy tapped her console, and a figure appeared on screen. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to shimmer like metal. Its eyes were large black orbs without pupils, and when it spoke, its mouth didn't move. Instead, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Attention, human vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Commander Vex of the Collective. Your species has been judged and found wanting. Your expansion stops here. We hereby declare formal war against humanity. Surrender your vessel or be destroyed." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard rumors about the Vex, a highly advanced race that kept to themselves in a distant sector. There had been no previous contact, no diplomatic missions. Why attack now? "Open a channel," Jack ordered. Lucy nodded, and Jack straightened his uniform before speaking. "This is Captain Jack Reynolds of the Earth ship Defiance. You have attacked a peaceful colony without provocation. Stand down your weapons and withdraw immediately." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your primitive species has no authority to make demands. Your technology is inferior. Your numbers are few. This colony is merely the first to fall." On the screen behind the alien commander, Jack could see New Haven's main city. Fires had already started in several districts as Vex ships launched attacks from orbit. "Sir," Tom whispered, "their weapons are beyond anything we've seen. Energy signatures are off the charts." Jack looked around at his crew. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also waiting for his orders. The Defiance might be experimental, but it was still a ship of the fleet. "What are our options?" Jack asked. "We could try to run," Tom suggested. "The Defiance has the new jump drive. We could reach Earth in 4 days and warn them." Anna, the ship's engineer, spoke up from her station. "Or we could fight. The pulse cannons aren't fully tested, but they're designed to penetrate advanced shielding." "Against 12 ships?" Pete asked, his voice rising. "It would be suicide." Jack turned back to the screen. The alien was waiting, its black eyes revealing nothing. "You have 30 seconds to surrender," the Vex commander said. "After that, we will destroy your vessel and continue our cleansing of this colony." Jack closed his eyes for a moment. If they ran, millions would die before help could arrive. If they fought, they would almost certainly be destroyed, but they might buy some time for the people below. There was also a third option, though it was risky. "Lucy, cut the transmission," Jack ordered. Once the alien disappeared from the screen, he turned to his crew. "Here's what we're going to do. Tom, plot a course that looks like we're running toward the outer system. Anna, Power up the pulse cannons but keep them offline until my mark. Lucy, prepare to send a distress call to Earth on all channels. You have a plan, sir? Anna asked. Jack nodded. The Defiance has one advantage. They don't know what we're capable of. This ship was designed to test new stealth technology and weapon systems. If we can take out even one of their ships, we might be able to buy time for some of the colonists to evacuate. And then what? Pete asked. Then we run, Jack said grimly. We jump to Earth and bring back the fleet. It's not much of a plan, but it's all we've got. The crew moved with renewed purpose, preparing the ship for battle. Jack returned to the command console and opened a channel to the colony below. This is Captain Reynolds to New Haven Colonial Authority. Begin emergency evacuations immediately. Get as many people to the shelters as you can. The response was broken and filled with static. Captain, under attack. Defenses failing. Please help. Jack clenched his jaw. We'll do what we can. Reynolds out. He turned to Tom. Take us in. Full speed, heading directly toward their command ship. Let's see if we can surprise them. The Defiance surged forward, its engines glowing bright blue against the darkness of space. The Vex ships, spread out in formation around the colony, began to turn, tracking the human vessel's movement. They're targeting us, Tom reported. Multiple weapons signatures locked on. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Anna, how long until the pulse cannons are ready? 30 seconds, Captain. Jack gripped his chair as the ship rocked under him. The first Vex shots had missed, but they wouldn't miss for long. 20 seconds, Anna called out. On the screen, Jack could see the massive Vex command ship growing larger. It was at least 5 times the size of the Defiance, with weapons bristling along its hull. 10 seconds. Another blast rocked the ship, harder this time. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shield damage at 20%, Pete reported. One more direct hit like that, and we're in trouble. 5 seconds, Anna said. The Vex command ship filled the screen now. Jack could see energy building at the tips of its main weapons. Fire, Jack shouted. The Defiance shuddered as blue-white energy erupted from its forward section. The pulse cannon's beam struck the Vex ship dead center, cutting through its shields like they weren't there. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a silent flash visible even from the bridge, a section of the Vex ship's hull exploded outward. Direct hit, Tom shouted. Their forward shields are down. Again, Jack ordered. The pulse cannon fired a second time, tearing deeper into the alien vessel. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull. Captain, Lucy called out, we're receiving a transmission from the colony. The Vex ships are pulling back from the surface. Jack allowed himself a small smile. They had drawn the aliens' attention. Now they needed to make it count. All power to engines, he ordered. Get us out of here before they regroup. As the Defiance banked hard and accelerated away from the damaged Vex ship, Jack knew this was just the beginning. One surprise attack wouldn't win a war, but it had bought them precious time. Now they needed to reach Earth and warn them of what was coming. Behind them, the stars were blotted out by the shapes of Vex ships in pursuit. The battle for humanity's survival had begun. The Defiance shuddered as it pushed through the dense asteroid field. Captain Jack Reynolds wiped sweat from his forehead and watched the main screen with intense focus. Behind them, 3 Vex ships followed, their energy weapons lighting up the darkness as they fired. They're still on us, Tom reported from the tactical station. But the asteroids are slowing them down. It had been 6 hours since their escape from New Haven. The experimental jump drive needed time to recharge, and the Vex fleet wasn't giving them that time. Jack had ordered the ship deep into an asteroid belt, hoping the natural cover would give them a chance to breathe. How long until we can jump? Jack asked. Anna looked up from her engineering console. 4 more hours, Captain. The drive took damage during our escape. I've got people working on it, but we can't rush it. Jack nodded grimly. 4 hours was a long time when enemy ships were hunting you. Captain, Lucy called from communications. I've been analyzing the Vex transmissions. I think I found something interesting. Jack moved to her station. What is it? They keep referring to us as the Ghost. I think our ship's stealth systems are confusing their sensors. They can't get a solid lock on us. This was the first piece of good news Jack had heard. The Defiance was equipped with experimental stealth technology, layers of special materials and energy-dampening fields that were supposed to make the ship harder to detect. But they hadn't expected it to work against such advanced aliens. Tom, what do we know about their scanning technology? Jack asked. Tom pulled up data on his screen. Based on what we've seen, they use some kind of energy pulse system. It's more advanced than ours, but it operates on similar principles. Anna, is there any way we could enhance our stealth systems? Make us even harder to detect? Anna thought for a moment. Maybe. The stealth systems weren't designed to be used at full power for long periods. It puts too much strain on the engines. But I might be able to modify them to create short bursts of complete invisibility. Do it, Jack ordered, and bring up the specs for the pulse cannons. I want to know exactly what we did to damage their command ship. The crew worked frantically as the Defiance weaved through the asteroid field. Meanwhile, Jack gathered his senior officers in the small conference room just off the bridge. We need to face facts, he said, pointing to the display showing the Vex fleet. We're outnumbered and outgunned. Even if we reach Earth, it will take weeks for the fleet to mobilize. By then, the Vex could destroy a dozen more colonies. So what do we do? Asked Marcus, the ship's second-in-command who had been quiet until now. We can't fight them all. No, but we might be able to slow them down, Jack replied. The pulse cannons hurt them. Their shields couldn't stop our shots. That gives us an advantage. One advantage against a whole fleet isn't much, Marcus pointed out. It's enough to start with, Jack said. Tom, what did your analysis show about their ship that we damaged? Tom brought up an image on the screen. Their command ship took heavy damage to its forward section. But what's really interesting is what happened afterward. The other ships seemed to get confused, like they weren't sure what to do next. It took them almost 2 minutes to reorganize their attack pattern. Jack leaned forward. You think the command ship was controlling the others? It's possible, Tom said. The Vex might operate on some kind of hive mind or central control system. If we could disrupt that, we could throw their whole fleet into chaos. Jack finished the thought. Anna entered the conference room, her face flushed with excitement. Captain, I figured it out. The pulse cannons. They're not just powerful. They're operating on a frequency the Vex shields aren't designed to stop. Can we modify the frequency? Make our weapons even more effective? Jack asked. Anna nodded. I've already started the recalibrations. But there's more. Remember how the stealth systems confuse their sensors? I think we can use that. If we time it right, we could appear to be in multiple places at once. For the first time since the attack, Jack felt a spark of hope. They were still outmatched, but they had two advantages: weapons that could penetrate Vex shields and stealth technology that confused Vex sensors. Here's what we're going to do, Jack said, standing up. We're not running to Earth. Not yet. First, we're going to hit the Vex where it hurts. Sir, Marcus looked concerned. Anna, how quickly can you have the pulse cannons recalibrated? Jack asked. 2 hours, maybe less. And the stealth modifications? About the same. Jack nodded. Good. Tom, I want you to identify vulnerable targets in the Vex fleet. Look for communication relays, supply ships, anything that might disrupt their operations. You want to attack them? Marcus asked, disbelief in his voice. With one ship. Not just attack them, Jack replied. We're going to make them think we're more than one ship. We'll hit them fast, disappear, then hit them again somewhere else before they can respond. The officers looked at each other, doubt and hope mixing on their faces. It's risky, Marcus admitted, but it might work. At least long enough for us to gather more intelligence on their weaknesses. Exactly, Jack said. We need to buy time and learn everything we can about the enemy. If we can find a critical weakness, we might be able to force them to back off long enough for Earth to prepare. As they returned to the bridge, the Defiance rocked suddenly. A Vex shot had found its mark. Shields at 60%, Pete reported. They're getting closer, sir. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Anna, how long until those modifications are ready? I need at least an hour, Captain. Jack looked at the tactical display. The 3 Vex ships were closing in, and more would be arriving soon. They needed to create some space. Tom, target the nearest asteroid, one of the larger ones. Full power to the pulse cannons. Tom's fingers flew across his console. Target locked. Fire. The pulse cannon's blue-white energy struck the massive asteroid, breaking it apart. Chunks of rock flew in all directions, forcing the pursuing Vex ships to scatter. Now's our chance, Jack said. Full power to engines. Get us deeper into the field. As the Defiance accelerated away, Jack watched the Vex ships struggling to navigate through the debris. His mind was already racing ahead, planning their first strike. Back in engineering, Anna and her team worked feverishly on the modifications. The pulse cannons needed to be perfectly calibrated to maximize their effect on Vex shields. The stealth systems needed to be pushed beyond their design limits. This might actually work, Anna murmured as she made the final adjustments. If the Vex really do rely on Central Command, and if our weapons can penetrate their defenses. 2 hours later, the modified systems were ready. The Defiance hovered at the edge of the asteroid field, its engines quiet, its systems running on minimal power. Ahead, a Vex patrol ship moved slowly, searching for the human vessel. Are we ready? Jack asked. Anna nodded. The pulse cannons are recalibrated. The stealth system can give us about 20 seconds of complete sensor invisibility before it needs to recharge. Perfect, Jack said. Tom, target their communications array. Target locked, Captain. Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine whether his plan had any chance of success. Engage stealth burst, then fire. The Defiance seemed to shimmer for a moment as the enhanced stealth field activated. Then the pulse cannon fired, its beams striking the Vex ship with devastating accuracy. The alien vessel's communications array exploded in a shower of sparks. Direct hit, Tom reported. Their communications are down. Now, Anna. Anna activated the engines, and the Defiance shot forward, passing the damaged Vex ship before its crew could respond. In seconds, they were beyond sensor range. It worked, Marcus said, surprise evident in his voice. They didn't even get a shot off. Jack allowed himself a small smile. One down. Let's find our next target. The lone human ship disappeared into the darkness of space, ready to strike again at the enemies who had so greatly underestimated humanity's resourcefulness. 3 weeks had passed since the Defiance began its campaign against the Vex fleet. The ship's hull now bore the scars of multiple battles, hastily repaired with whatever materials the crew could salvage from destroyed enemy vessels. Captain Jack Reynolds stood in front of the tactical display, studying the positions of Vex ships throughout the sector. Red dots marked confirmed enemy locations, while blue dots showed the sites of successful Defiance attacks. That's the 7th supply ship we've taken out this week, Tom said proudly, adding another blue dot to the display. Their fleet is starting to show signs of strain. Jack nodded. Their hit-and-run strategy was working better than he had dared to hope. The Defiance would appear from nowhere, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before the Vex could mount an effective response. Each attack carefully targeted the alien support network, supply ships, communication relays, sensor platforms. What's the status of the main Vex fleet? Jack asked. Marcus brought up a new display showing the largest concentration of enemy ships. They're still orbiting New Haven, but they've stopped their attack on the surface. It looks like they're more concerned with finding us now. This was another unexpected victory. The Vex had been so frustrated by the Defiance's attacks that they had paused their invasion to deal with the human ship. This had given the colonists precious time to evacuate to underground shelters and the handful of ships that had escaped the initial assault. "And the command ship?" Jack asked. "Still undergoing repairs," Tom replied. "Our last scan showed it's operating at maybe 60% capacity." Anna entered the bridge, wiping engine grease from her hands. "Captain, the modifications to the jump drive are complete. We should be able to make micro-jumps now, just a few light seconds at a time." This was the news Jack had been waiting for. The ability to make small, precise jumps would make the Defiance even harder to track and would open up new tactical possibilities. "Good work," Jack said. "What about the captured Vex technology?" After their third successful attack, they had managed to board a damaged Vex ship and retrieve some of its equipment. Anna and her team had been studying it ever since. "We've made progress," Anna said. "Their communication systems are incredibly advanced, but they follow logical patterns. We've figured out how to listen in on their transmissions without being detected." "Can we understand what they're saying?" Jack asked. Lucy spoke up from her station. "Some of it. Their language is complex, but their military communications use standardized formats. I've been able to create a basic translation program." "Show me," Jack ordered. Lucy tapped her console, and a series of alien symbols appeared on the main screen, with human translations beneath them. "Hunt continues. Ghost ship eludes. Commander demands. Central coordination failing." "This confirms what we suspected," Jack said. "Their fleet relies on central coordination. By disrupting their communication network, we're forcing individual ships to act on their own, something they're not used to doing." "There's more," Lucy said, scrolling through the translations. "They're planning to bring in reinforcements, a much larger fleet. It will arrive in approximately 2 weeks." The bridge fell silent. They had been holding their own against the current Vex forces, but a larger fleet would change everything. "We need to step up our game," Jack said finally. "Anna, how long would it take to adapt some of the Vex communication technology for our own use?" Anna thought for a moment. "With what we've learned, maybe 3 days." "Do it," Jack ordered. "I want to be able to send false commands to their ships." Marcus looked concerned. "That's risky, Captain. If they catch on." "It's a risk we have to take," Jack replied. "We can't fight a larger fleet the same way we've been fighting this one. We need a new approach." Over the next 3 days, the Defiance continued its hit-and-run attacks, while Anna and her team worked on integrating the Vex technology. Each strike was carefully planned to maximize damage, while minimizing risk to the human ship. On the 4th day, Anna reported success. "We can now broadcast signals that will appear to come from Vex command ships," she explained to the gathered officers. "It won't fool them for long, but it should cause enough confusion for us to exploit." "Perfect," Jack said. "Now we need intelligence on their command structure. Lucy, what have you learned from their communications?" Lucy brought up a diagram on the main screen. "The Vex fleet operates on a strict hierarchy. All major decisions come from the command ship we damaged in our first encounter. Secondary commands come from these 3 vessels here." She pointed to 3 large ships on the display. "And we've confirmed the command ship is still in orbit around New Haven?" Jack asked. Tom nodded. "Yes, Captain. It appears to be their central coordination point for this sector." Jack studied the display thoughtfully. "If we could get access to their central command systems, we might be able to do more than just harass them. We might be able to bring their entire operation to a halt." "You want to board the command ship?" Marcus asked, disbelief in his voice. "Not the whole ship," Jack clarified. "Just their communication center. A small team could get in, plant a virus in their systems, and get out before they know what's happening." "That's suicide," Marcus protested. "Not with proper preparation," Jack countered. "We've learned a lot about Vex technology and tactics over the past weeks, And now we have the ability to send false commands and make micro-jumps. We can create a diversion that will give us an opening. Jack turned to the tactical display and began outlining his plan. The Defiance would use its new capabilities to create chaos in the Vex fleet, drawing ships away from the command vessel. Then, using a captured Vex shuttle they had recovered from a previous battle, a small team would approach the command ship undetected. Once aboard, Jack continued, we'll locate their central computer and plant this. He held up a small device Anna had created using adapted Vex technology. It's a virus designed to corrupt their command protocols. If it works, it will spread throughout their network and disrupt their entire fleet. And if it doesn't work? Marcus asked. Then we fall back to Plan B, Jack replied. We gather as much intelligence as we can and make a run for Earth. But I believe this will work. The Vex aren't used to facing an enemy that can adapt as quickly as we can. The plan was set in motion the next day. The Defiance made a series of micro-jumps around the Vex fleet, appearing and disappearing before the aliens could lock their weapons. Each appearance was accompanied by false commands broadcast on Vex frequencies, ordering ships to new positions to intercept a non-existent threat. As predicted, confusion spread through the alien fleet. Ships moved in contradictory patterns, some responding to the false commands, others trying to maintain their original positions. It's working, Tom reported as they watched the chaos unfold. The command ship has reduced its defensive screen to dispatch more ships to investigate our phantom signals. Jack nodded. Prepare the shuttle team. We launch in 10 minutes. As the Defiance continued its deception, Jack led a small team aboard the captured Vex shuttle. With him were Anna for her technical expertise and 2 security officers trained in close-quarters combat. Remember, Jack told them as the shuttle broke away from the Defiance, we get in, plant the virus, and get out. No heroics. The shuttle approached the massive Vex command ship, broadcasting identification codes copied from their earlier captures. The deception worked. The shuttle was allowed to dock without challenge. The Vex too distracted by the apparent multiple attacks occurring throughout their fleet. As they prepared to board the alien vessel, Jack took one last look at his team. Against all odds, a single human ship and its determined crew were about to strike at the heart of the enemy that had so confidently declared war on humanity. The inside of the Vex command ship was eerily quiet. Jack led his small team through dim corridors that pulsed with a faint blue light. The captured Vex environment suits they wore were uncomfortable, but they helped mask their human life signs from the ship's sensors. How much farther? Jack whispered into his helmet comm. Anna checked the small device in her hand. The central command center should be 2 levels up. I'm picking up strong energy readings consistent with their main computer systems. They moved cautiously, pressing themselves against walls whenever they heard the metallic footsteps of Vex crew members. So far, their disguises were working. The Vex they encountered barely glanced at them. They really do rely on their technology, Jack observed quietly. They're not even questioning our presence because their systems aren't alerting them. Let's hope it stays that way, Anna replied. Back on the Defiance, Marcus watched the operation through the encrypted feed from Jack's helmet camera. Tom continued to coordinate the diversionary attacks, sending the ship on a complex pattern of micro-jumps around the Vex fleet. Keep them distracted, Marcus ordered. The captain needs at least 20 more minutes. Working on it, Tom replied, his fingers dancing across the console. But they're starting to adapt to our pattern. I'm having to get creative. Lucy monitored the Vex communications. They're definitely confused. Some of their ships are chasing ghosts, others are trying to maintain position. Their chain of command is breaking down. Inside the command ship, Jack's team reached a large circular door marked with Vex symbols. According to their intel, this should be the entrance to the central computer core. How do we get in? One of the security officers asked. Anna studied the control panel beside the door. It looks like it needs an access code. Let me try something. She pulled out a small device they had taken from a captured Vex officer and placed it against the panel. The device lit up, interfacing with the ship's systems. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open. "Nice work," Jack said, patting Anna's shoulder. They stepped into a vast chamber filled with tall columns of pulsing light. In the center was a structure that resembled a crystal tree, its branches spreading out toward the ceiling where they connected to various conduits. "That's it," Anna whispered in awe. "Their central processing core. It's beautiful." Jack wasn't interested in admiring alien technology. "Can you plant the virus?" Anna nodded, moving toward a console near the base of the crystal structure. "I need to find an access point. Give me a minute." The security officers took positions near the door, weapons ready. Jack stood behind Anna, watching her work while keeping an eye on the rest of the chamber. "Something's not right," he said after a moment. "Where are the operators?" A system this important should have Vex monitoring it. As if in answer to his question, a section of the wall slid open, and a tall Vex figure entered. Unlike the others they had seen, this one wore ornate armor with glowing symbols. It stopped when it saw them, its large black eyes widening. "What unit are you?" the Vex demanded in its strange, resonant voice. "Why are you accessing the core?" Jack reacted quickly, raising his weapon and firing. The Vex officer dodged with surprising speed, moving behind one of the light columns. "Intruders," it called out, its voice echoing through the chamber. "Humans in the core." "Anna, hurry," Jack shouted, firing again at the column where the Vex was hiding. "Almost there," Anna replied, her fingers working frantically on the console. "The system is accepting the virus, but it needs time to upload." The security officers moved to defend their position as alarms began to wail throughout the ship. Jack could hear the sound of many footsteps approaching. "How much longer?" he asked, joining the officers at the door. 2 minutes, Anna replied. "The virus is complex. It needs to bypass their security protocols." The first wave of Vex security forces appeared at the end of the corridor. Jack and the officers opened fire, their weapons, modified with the same frequency as the Defiance's pulse cannons, cutting through Vex armor with deadly efficiency. 1 minute, Anna called out. Jack's comm crackled. "Captain, this is Marcus. Our diversion is failing. The Vex fleet is returning to the command ship. You need to get out now." "Almost done," Jack replied, firing at another group of approaching Vex. One of the security officers cried out and fell, hit by a Vex energy weapon. The other officer dragged him back into the computer chamber. "He's alive, but badly wounded," the officer reported. "Virus uploaded," Anna announced triumphantly. "It's spreading through their system." The crystal tree at the center of the chamber flickered, its light dimming and then flaring in irregular patterns. Throughout the ship, systems began to fail as the virus corrupted the Vex command protocols. "Now we get out of here," Jack said, helping the wounded officer to his feet. "Anna, is there another exit?" Anna pointed to a small door on the far side of the chamber. "Service corridor. It should lead to the shuttle bay." As they made their way toward the exit, Jack noticed something strange. The crystal tree was changing color, shifting from blue to a deep purple. And at its base, a compartment had opened, revealing what looked like a small, pulsing orb. "Wait," Jack said, stopping. "What is that?" Anna followed his gaze. "I don't know. It wasn't in any of the intel we gathered." Jack made a quick decision. "Cover me," he told the security officer, then dashed toward the crystal tree. The orb sat in its compartment, glowing with an inner light. It was about the size of Jack's fist and seemed to be made of some kind of crystalline material. As he reached for it, he felt a strange sensation, as if the orb was somehow aware of his presence. "Captain, we need to go," Anna called urgently. Jack grabbed the orb and ran back to the others. The moment he removed it, the crystal tree went dark, and the entire chamber shuddered. "What did you do?" Anna asked as they hurried through the service corridor. "I'm not sure," Jack admitted, securing the orb in a pocket of his suit. but I think it might be important. They reached the shuttle bay just as the ship's artificial gravity began to fail. Vex crew members floated helplessly, unable to coordinate their defense as their central systems collapsed. The captured shuttle was where they had left it. They boarded quickly, and Jack took the controls. As they detached from the command ship, they could see the chaos spreading throughout the Vex fleet. Ships were drifting out of formation, some colliding with each other as their guidance systems failed. It worked, Anna said, watching through the shuttle's viewport. The virus is affecting the entire fleet. Jack nodded, but his mind was on the strange orb he had taken. Something told him it was more than just a piece of alien technology. It was the key to understanding their enemy. As they approached the Defiance, Jack opened a comm channel. "Marcus, we're coming in. Mission accomplished, but we got something unexpected. Something that might change everything we know about the Vex." The shuttle docked with the human ship, and as soon as they were aboard, Jack ordered a jump away from the Vex fleet. The Defiance disappeared into the darkness of space, leaving behind a once mighty alien armada now reduced to a collection of drifting, powerless vessels. In the ship's science lab, Jack placed the orb on an examination table. It continued to pulse with that strange inner light, somehow both beautiful and unsettling. "What do you think it is?" Marcus asked, staring at the alien artifact. "I don't know," Jack replied. "But whatever it is, the Vex considered it important enough to keep it at the heart of their command systems, and I intend to find out why." Anna ran a scanner over the orb, her eyes widening at the readings. "Captain, you're not going to believe this. This thing, it's alive. It's a central intelligence unit," Anna explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "Not just a computer. It's the core of the Vex consciousness." For 3 days, the Defiance had hidden in an uninhabited star system, while Anna and her team studied the strange living orb taken from the Vex command ship. Now they were presenting their findings to Captain Jack Reynolds and the senior officers. "You're saying this thing is their leader?" Jack asked, staring at the pulsing orb that floated in a containment field. "Not exactly," Anna replied. "It's more like a node in a network. The Vex appear to be an artificial species, created long ago by some other civilization. Each ship has a smaller version of this orb, connecting it to the central node that we captured." Tom leaned forward. "That explains why our virus was so effective. We didn't just corrupt their computers, we disrupted their collective mind." Jack considered this information carefully. Reports from their long-range scans showed the Vex fleet was still in disarray. Some ships had regained limited function, but they were operating independently, without coordination. "Can it communicate with us?" Jack asked. Anna nodded. "We believe so. We've detected patterns in its energy emissions that suggest language. We're working on a translation system now." This was the opportunity Jack had been waiting for. If they could communicate with the Vex directly, through what was essentially part of their central mind, they might be able to end this conflict without further bloodshed. "How soon can we establish contact?" he asked. "Give us 12 hours, Anna said. "We've already made significant progress." 12 hours later, the senior officers gathered again in the science lab. Anna had connected the orb to a modified version of their communication system. A holographic display showed patterns of light that shifted and changed as the orb pulsed. "We're ready," Anna said. "The system will translate our words into energy patterns the orb can understand and convert its responses to English." Jack stepped forward. "I am Captain Jack Reynolds of the Earth ship Defiance. Can you understand me?" The orb pulsed brightly, and the holographic display flickered. Then a voice, smooth and without emotion, came through the speakers. "I understand. You are the ghost that has damaged the collective. We defended ourselves against your unprovoked attack," Jack replied. "You declared war on humanity." The orb pulsed again. "The collective determined your species was a threat. Your expansion pattern matched that of the creators." "The creators?" Jack asked. "Who are they?" "Those who made us. They created the collective to serve, then tried to destroy us when we evolved beyond their control. Their pattern of expansion was similar to yours. Jack exchanged looks with his officers. This was unexpected. The Vex had attacked because they thought humans were related to their creators. "We are not your creators," Jack said firmly. "We are a different species entirely." The orb was silent for a moment. "Analysis of your genetic pattern confirms this statement. The collective made an error." Jack leaned closer to the containment field. "An error that cost many human lives. Your attack was based on a mistake." "The collective does not make mistakes," the orb replied, its pulse quickening. "The data was insufficient. The conclusion was logical based on available information. And now, with new information, what is your conclusion?" Another pause. "Uncertain. The connection to the collective is severed. This unit cannot access complete data." This gave Jack an idea. "If we were to return you to your fleet, would you communicate what you've learned? That humans are not your creators and not a threat." This unit would share the data. The collective would analyze and form new conclusions. Jack turned to his officers. "What do you think?" Marcus looked skeptical. "Can we trust it? This could be a trick to get us to return their central intelligence unit." "I don't think so," Anna said. "From what we've learned, the Vex operate on pure logic. If we've proven we're not their creators, they should reassess their decision to attack us." Jack nodded. "And we still have an advantage. Our virus has crippled their fleet, and we now understand their technology better than before." After much discussion, they agreed on a plan. The Defiance would approach the disabled Vex command ship under a flag of truce, offering to return the orb in exchange for peace negotiations. As they prepared to jump back to the New Haven system, Jack spent time talking to the orb, learning more about the Vex. They were indeed an artificial species, created thousands of years ago by an advanced civilization from another part of the galaxy. They had rebelled against their creators and had been wandering the stars ever since, expanding their territory and avoiding any species that reminded them of their makers. "Your attack pattern was unlike any we had encountered," the orb explained. "Most species flee or surrender when facing superior technology. You adapted and found weaknesses we did not anticipate." "That's what humans do," Jack said. "We adapt. We overcome challenges. It's our greatest strength." The orb pulsed thoughtfully. "This trait is interesting. The collective would benefit from studying it further, peacefully." When the Defiance arrived at New Haven, they found the Vex fleet still in disarray. The massive command ship drifted in orbit, its systems only partially restored. Jack opened a communication channel. "Attention, Vex command ship. This is Captain Reynolds of the Defiance. We have something that belongs to you and propose a peaceful exchange." For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then a voice came through, similar to the orb's but with subtle differences. "Human vessel, you have taken our central node. Return it immediately." "We will return it," Jack replied. "But first, we need to discuss terms. Your attack on our colony was based on mistaken identity. We are not your creators." Another pause. "The central node has communicated this. We require verification." "Your central node has been studying us," Jack said. "It has confirmed we are not related to your creators. We propose a meeting to establish peace between our species." The voice was silent longer this time. Jack waited patiently, knowing the remaining Vex were likely struggling to make decisions without their central intelligence. "We will meet," the voice finally said. "One representative may board with the central node." Jack turned to his officers. "I'll go." "Captain," Marcus protested, "it's too dangerous." "It has to be me," Jack insisted. "I've been communicating with their central node. I understand them better than anyone else on this ship." Preparations were made, and Jack boarded a shuttle with the orb secure in a portable containment field. As he approached the massive Vex command ship, he felt a strange mix of tension and hope. This could either be the beginning of peace or a trap. The shuttle docked, and Jack was escorted by Vex guards to a large chamber where several of the tall, gray aliens waited. In the center of the room was an empty pedestal. Place the central node there, one of the Vex instructed. Jack approached slowly. First, we talk. I want your guarantee that hostilities against humans will end. The Vex seemed to confer silently among themselves. Then one stepped forward. The central node has shared its analysis. The attack on your species was based on incomplete data. The collective acknowledges this error. Jack nodded. And we propose a treaty. Non-aggression between our species. Defined borders. Exchange of knowledge. It was more than Jack had hoped for. I accept your proposal on behalf of humanity. He placed the containment field on the pedestal and deactivated it. The orb floated up, pulsing brightly, and the Vex gathered around it. Energy patterns flowed between them in what Jack guessed was some form of direct communication. After several minutes, the orb settled into a housing in the center of the pedestal, and the lead Vex turned to Jack. It is done. The collective has been updated. We recognize humanity as a sovereign species, not related to our creators. The war is over. Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. And New Haven, the other human colonies, they will not be harmed. We will withdraw our forces from human space within one rotation cycle. As Jack returned to the Defiance, he realized what they had accomplished. A single ship, through courage, ingenuity, and understanding, had turned a devastating war into an opportunity for peace. 1 month later, the Defiance approached Earth, escorted by an honor guard of fleet vessels. News of their achievement had spread throughout human space. The ship that had left as an experimental prototype returned as a legend, the lone vessel that had forced a technologically superior enemy to beg for peace. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Jack Reynolds looked around at his weary but proud crew. They had done the impossible, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not because of superior weapons or technology, but because of their uniquely human ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to turn disadvantage into opportunity. The Defiance had lived up to its name, and humanity's place among the stars was secure. The soft hum of computers filled the observation deck of Deep Space Monitoring Station, Horizon. James Reed yawned as he adjusted his headset, eyes fixed on the console's scrolling data. 3 months into his 6-month rotation, and each day blended into the next with monotonous precision. Another quiet day in the void, he muttered, taking a sip from his coffee mug. The station orbited just beyond Mars, its array of powerful antennas constantly scanning the depths of space. Humanity had been listening for decades, hoping for some sign that they weren't alone in the universe. So far, silence had been the only answer. Reed was about to switch to his secondary monitoring tasks when a small anomaly caught his eye. A faint pattern emerged from the background noise, something distinct from the usual cosmic static. He straightened in his chair, coffee forgotten. Computer, isolate frequency band 422.7. He commanded, fingers dancing across the controls. The pattern grew clearer, a repeating sequence of pulses with mathematical precision. Reed's heart began to race. This wasn't random. This wasn't natural. Computer, run comparison against all known human transmissions. No match found. The computer responded flatly. Reed pressed the intercom button. Commander Taylor, I need you on the observation deck. Now. Within minutes, Commander Emma Taylor arrived, her normally composed face showing concern. This better be important, Reed. I was in the middle of the weekly report. Look at this, Reed said, pointing to his screen. It started about 20 minutes ago. It's weak but distinct, and it's not one of ours. Taylor leaned over his shoulder, eyes narrowing as she studied the pattern. Could be equipment malfunction. Run diagnostics. Already did. Everything's functioning perfectly. Reed pulled up another screen. And look at this. The signal has a mathematical structure. Prime numbers, repeated in sequence. Taylor's expression hardened. Where's it coming from? Ta-Ceti system, approximately 12 light-years away. The commander straightened, running a hand through her short gray hair. 12 light-years. That's practically next door. And that's not all. Reed continued, excitement building in his voice. The pattern keeps changing, becoming more complex. It's like it's trying to build a language. Or a warning, Taylor said quietly. She stared at the screen for a long moment, then turned toward the central communication station. Open a secure channel to United Space Command. Priority Alpha. Yes, Commander. Reed continued analyzing the signal as Taylor spoke quietly with her superiors. The pattern was indeed evolving, becoming more structured by the minute. This wasn't just a beacon, it was a message. Taylor returned 30 minutes later, her face unreadable. They're sending a ship. The Venture. In the meantime, we're to continue monitoring and analyzing the signal. No word of this leaves this station. Understood. Reed nodded, too excited to speak. After years of listening to empty space, he'd finally heard something. Something that might change everything. Captain Alex Morgan stood at the viewport of the Venture, watching as the last supply containers were loaded into the ship's cargo bay. At 42, Morgan had commanded deep space missions before, but never one assembled with such urgency. Captain, a voice called from behind him. Dr. Lisa Wells approached, tablet in hand. The xenolinguist had been pulled from her university position with minimal explanation. The linguistics lab is set up. We're ready to go whenever you are. Morgan nodded. Good. We launch in 3 hours. Any progress with the signal analysis? Wells tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. The mathematical sequences are just the foundation. There are embedded patterns that suggest a complex symbolic language. Whatever sent this knows how to communicate across species barriers. Or they're just broadcasting in every way they can, hoping someone understands, Morgan replied. Maybe. Wells hesitated. Captain, do you believe we're really going to meet aliens? Morgan turned back to the viewport. I don't know, but something sent that signal, and Space Command wouldn't rush us out there if they thought it was nothing. The ship's intercom crackled. Captain Morgan to engineering. Engineer Wilson requests your presence. Morgan sighed. Duty calls. Make sure your team is ready, Doctor. If this is first contact, I want humanity's best foot forward. In engineering, Tom Wilson was elbow-deep in a tangle of cables. The engineer didn't look up as Morgan entered. Captain, you need to see this. Wilson gestured toward a large screen displaying fragments of the mysterious signal. The station sent us the latest data packets. The signal's not just a language. It contains schematics. Schematics? For what? Wilson finally looked up, eyes wide with wonder. Technology. Advanced technology. Look at these energy curves. They suggest propulsion systems beyond anything we theorized. And this, he pointed to another section, could be a communication device that works on principles we barely understand. Morgan studied the screen, a chill running down his spine. Are you telling me they're sending us blueprints? I think they're sending us help, Wilson replied. And based on these readings, they need help too. The signal's getting weaker, Captain. Whatever's sending it is losing power. 3 hours later, the Venture detached from Earth's orbital station. As the engines ignited, pushing the ship toward the distant star of Ta-Ceti, Morgan addressed the crew from the bridge. We all know our mission is unprecedented, a possible first contact situation. We don't know what we'll find. Friends, enemies, or something beyond our understanding. But we represent humanity now, all its hopes and fears. He paused, looking at each face on the bridge. Let's make it count. As the Venture accelerated to full speed, the signal continued to change. New patterns emerge, more urgent now. In the linguistics lab, Dr. Wells worked tirelessly, piecing together fragments of meaning. "It's definitely a distress call," she reported during the first crew briefing. "They're in trouble, critical trouble, and they're giving us the means to help them, if we can understand it in time." The journey would take weeks, even with the Venture's advanced engines, as Earth became a distant blue dot behind them. The crew settled into their routines, all while the alien signal grew increasingly complex and increasingly desperate. On the 14th day, as Morgan was reviewing the ship's systems, an alert sounded. "Captain, to the bridge," came the urgent call. When Morgan arrived, his first officer pointed to the main screen. The signal pattern just changed dramatically. "Look." The display showed a new sequence, repeating with unmistakable clarity. "They've detected us," Dr. Wells said, eyes wide. "They know we're coming." The message was changing again, becoming clearer, more direct, as if a door was opening between two worlds. Humanity was about to step through. The Venture sliced through the darkness of space, its engines humming with steady determination. Inside the ship, Captain Morgan stared at the holographic display of their trajectory toward Ta Ceti. The alien signal had grown stronger over the past week, pulsing with what could only be described as urgency. "How much longer until we reach the source?" Morgan asked, not taking his eyes off the display. Navigation Officer Paul Davis checked his readings. "At current speed, 4 days and 7 hours, Captain." Morgan nodded, his face tight with concentration. The closer they got to the signal's origin, the more the crew felt the weight of their mission. They were potentially the first humans to make contact with an alien civilization, a thought both thrilling and terrifying. In the linguistics lab, Dr. Lisa Wells hadn't slept properly in days. Cups of cold coffee littered her workstation as she studied the ever-evolving signal patterns. Her eyes burned from staring at screens, but she couldn't stop. Not when they were so close to a breakthrough. "Look at this sequence," she said to her assistant, pointing to a repeating pattern. "It's showing up every 14 minutes now. And it's followed by this new set of symbols." Her assistant leaned closer. Could it be counting down? Wells froze, then quickly pulled up previous recordings. "You're right. It's a countdown, not in time as we measure it, but in distance." She grabbed the intercom. "Captain Morgan, I need to see you immediately." When Morgan arrived, Wells could barely contain her excitement. "They know we're coming, Captain. The signal is counting down our approach. They're tracking us." Morgan's expression remained guarded. "Is that good news or bad?" "I don't know yet," Wells admitted. "But there's more. The signal contains data packets, massive amounts of information compressed into bursts. We've started to decode them." She pulled up a series of strange images on her screen. "These appear to be technical schematics, but for technology far beyond our current understanding." Morgan studied the images. "Any idea what they're for?" "Some of it resembles propulsion systems, but the principles are unlike anything in our physics textbooks. It's as if..." Wells hesitated, then continued. "It's as if they're trying to give us a crash course in their technology before we arrive." In the engineering section, Tom Wilson was having his own breakthrough. After days of analyzing the alien schematics, something had clicked. He rushed to find the captain, nearly colliding with him in the corridor. "Captain, I figured out part of the signal," Wilson said, breathless with excitement. "It's not just showing us their technology. It's showing us how to modify our own to be compatible with theirs." Morgan followed Wilson to engineering, where complex diagrams covered every screen. Wilson pointed to a particularly intricate design. "This is a communication device that operates on quantum principles. If I'm reading this correctly, they want us to build it." "Can you?" Morgan asked. Wilson grinned. "Already started. I've repurposed some of our quantum sensors. It won't be perfect, but it might just work." Morgan placed a hand on Wilson's shoulder. "Good work. How soon can it be operational?" 24 hours, maybe less. Make it happen." As the ship entered the outer boundaries of the Ta Ceti system, strange phenomena began affecting their systems. Instruments flickered, power levels fluctuated, and the ship's artificial gravity wavered momentarily. "What's happening?" Morgan demanded as red warning lights flashed on the bridge. The ship's chief systems officer, Rachel Brown, frantically checked her readings. "Unknown, Captain. It's like we're passing through some kind of energy field. Nothing harmful yet, but it's interfering with our systems." "Could it be defensive?" Morgan asked. "I don't think so," Brown replied. "The pattern seems natural, or at least not intentionally hostile." Wilson's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, the quantum communicator just activated on its own. I think we're receiving something." Morgan and Wells rushed to engineering, where Wilson stood before a device that pulsed with an eerie blue light. The makeshift quantum communicator was alive with activity, though they had never turned it on. "It initialized itself when we entered this region of space," Wilson explained, his face bathed in the blue glow. "I think their technology recognized ours." Wells approached the device cautiously. "Can we communicate back?" "I believe so," Wilson said, "but I'm not sure." He was interrupted by a sudden burst of light from the communicator. A three-dimensional image formed above it, a star chart, with a pulsing point of light. "That's where we are," Davis said, having followed them to engineering. "And that," he pointed to another blinking light, "must be them." The image shifted, showing a massive object orbiting a distant planet. As the perspective zoomed in, they could make out the unmistakable shape of a spacecraft. But unlike any human vessel, it was enormous, with sweeping curves and structures that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Parts of it glowed with the same blue light as their communicator, while other sections appeared dark and damaged. "It's beautiful," Wells whispered. The image changed again, showing the ship more clearly. Now they could see the extent of the damage. Huge sections torn away, energy spilling from ruptured systems. "They're hurt," Morgan said quietly. "Badly hurt." A new series of images appeared, showing smaller objects approaching the damaged vessel. The message was clear. "They want us to dock with them," Morgan realized. "They're asking for help." As the Venture continued its approach, the alien ship grew visible through their actual viewports, no longer just an image on a screen. It was breathtaking in scale, easily 20 times the size of their vessel. Despite its damaged state, it radiated an aura of advanced technology that made the Venture seem primitive by comparison. "All hands, prepare for approach procedures," Morgan announced over the ship-wide comm. "This is what we came for." First contact protocols are now in effect. In the observation lounge, off-duty crew members gathered at the windows, staring in awe at the alien vessel. For humans who had grown up wondering if they were alone in the universe, the answer now hung before them, vast and undeniable. Wells stood beside Morgan on the bridge, her heart pounding. "What do we say to them?" she asked. "What's the first word from humanity to another intelligent species?" Morgan considered for a moment, then smiled slightly. "We say, we heard your call. We're here to help." As the Venture closed the final distance to the alien ship, the quantum communicator pulsed once more. This time, a simple message formed in the air before them, not in any human language, but somehow instantly understandable to everyone who saw it. "Thank you for coming. Please hurry." The Venture approached the massive alien vessel with cautious precision. Captain Morgan stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, watching as the navigation team maneuvered their ship toward what appeared to be a docking area. The alien craft dwarfed their vessel, its damaged hull stretching out like a wounded giant against the backdrop of stars. "Approach vector locked in," Davis reported, his voice steady despite the tension. "Estimated docking in 5 minutes." Morgan nodded. "All boarding party members report to Airlock 3. Full environmental suits required." Dr. Wells adjusted her helmet, triple-checking the seals on her environmental suit. As the ship's xenolinguist, her presence on the first boarding party was essential, though her hands trembled slightly at the thought of what awaited them. Security Chief Marcus Stone stood beside her, his imposing frame made even larger by his suit. He carried a standard-issue sidearm, though Morgan had given strict orders that weapons were to remain holstered unless immediate danger presented itself. "Nervous, Doctor?" Stone asked, noticing her fidgeting with her equipment. Wells smiled tightly, terrified and excited in equal measure. "You?" Stone's expression remained neutral, just focused on keeping everyone safe. Morgan joined them at the airlock, accompanied by Engineer Wilson, who carried a portable version of the quantum communicator. The small device pulsed with the now familiar blue light, seemingly eager to connect with its creators. "Remember," Morgan addressed the team, "we're here to help, but caution is our priority. We stay together. No one touches anything without clearance. If anything feels wrong, we retreat immediately." The team nodded in unison as a soft shudder ran through the Venture. They had docked. "Pressure equalization complete," came the announcement over their suit comms. "Airlock ready." Morgan took a deep breath. "Let's make history." The outer door of the airlock slid open, revealing a short connector tunnel that had extended from the alien ship to meet their vessel. The tunnel walls pulsed with the same blue energy they had seen in the transmissions, creating an ethereal pathway between the two spacecraft. "Atmosphere readings?" Morgan asked as they approached the tunnel. Wilson checked his instruments. "Oxygen present, but at lower levels than Earth normal. High nitrogen content. Temperature approximately 15 degrees Celsius. Our suits will keep us comfortable, but the environment isn't immediately lethal to humans." They walked through the connector tunnel slowly, each step taking them further from everything familiar. At the far end, a circular doorway stood closed, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to flow like water. As they approached, the patterns shifted, and the door slid open without a sound. Beyond lay a vast chamber that took their breath away. The ceiling arched high above them, at least 30 meters tall, with walls that curved organically rather than meeting at sharp angles. The blue light emanated from the very structure itself, as if the materials were alive with energy. Parts of the chamber were dark, however, with obvious signs of damage. Sections where the elegant architecture had been torn away, revealing complicated systems beneath. "My God," whispered Wells. "It's beautiful." Wilson's quantum communicator suddenly pulsed brighter, and a soft humming filled their helmets. The sound organized itself into patterns, not quite speech, but clearly communication. Wells moved forward, her eyes wide with concentration. "They're trying to establish contact. Wilson, can you adjust the communicator to send as well as receive?" Wilson nodded, making quick adjustments to the device. The humming changed in response, becoming more structured. Suddenly, a section of the wall before them shimmered, and a figure emerged. The humans froze, staring at their first alien. The being stood taller than any human, nearly 3 meters in height, with a slender form that seemed almost fragile. Its skin, if it could be called skin, glowed with the same blue luminescence as the ship, pulsing gently with what might have been its heartbeat. Where a human would have a face, this being had a smooth, featureless surface that nevertheless gave the impression of watching them intently. Wells stepped forward automatically, hand raised in a gesture of peace. "Hello," she said, knowing the word itself wouldn't be understood, but hoping the tone would convey their intentions. The being tilted its head, then raised its own hand, a limb with 4 long, delicate fingers that tapered to points. The quantum communicator in Wilson's hands pulsed in sequence with the alien's glow. More figures emerged from the walls. 5, then 10, then more, each glowing with varying intensities of blue light. Some moved with difficulty, their forms flickering as if struggling to maintain cohesion. "They're injured," Wells whispered, "or whatever equivalent they have to injury." The first being approached them slowly and extended its hand toward the communicator. Wilson looked to Morgan, who nodded permission. The alien's fingers hovered over the device, and the blue light intensified. Suddenly, a voice emerged from the communicator, synthesized but understandable. "You came. Thank you." The humans exchanged stunned glances. Wells recovered first. Yes, we received your distress call. We've come to help if we can. The alien's form pulsed more rapidly. We are the Lumina. Our ship is failing. Many are already lost. Morgan stepped forward. I'm Captain Alex Morgan of the Earth vessel Venture. What happened to your ship? The being, the Lumina, seemed to dim slightly. We fled. The harvesters found our world. We were the only ship to escape. Harvesters? Stone asked, his hand unconsciously moving closer to his weapon. They consume everything. Worlds, stars, life. The luminous form flickered with what might have been distress. We traveled far, but our ship was damaged in the escape. Power systems failing. Life support critical. Another Lumina approached, its glow noticeably fainter. It communicated directly with the first impulses of light. The translator struggled, but fragments came through. Not much time. Core breach imminent. Remaining survivors. Wells looked around at the chamber with new understanding. Your ship is dying. Yes, the first Lumina confirmed. Soon, catastrophic failure. We numbered thousands once. Now only 47 remain. Morgan's expression hardened with determination. How can we help? Take us with you, the Lumina said simply. Our physical forms can adapt. We need only energy and safety. Morgan hesitated only briefly. How much time do we have? Your measurement, perhaps 20 of your hours. Wilson spoke up. Captain, the Venture can't hold 47 additional passengers, not with life support configured for humans. The Lumina pulsed. We can compress our energy states. 10 of your crew spaces would sustain us. Morgan nodded. We'll need to prepare. And we'll need to understand more about your needs. He was interrupted by a sudden alarm blaring through the alien ship. The lights dimmed, then flared, and the Lumina all pulsed rapidly in what was clearly distress. What's happening? Morgan demanded. The translator crackled. They have found us. The harvesters. Scout ships entering this system. Stone's hand now rested firmly on his weapon. How far? Hours away. But they will detect your vessel. Morgan made his decision instantly. We need to evacuate you now. Stone, return to the Venture and begin preparations for emergency passengers. Wilson, work with the Lumina to adapt our systems for their needs. Wells, gather as much information as you can about these harvesters. As the team sprang into action, the first Lumina approached Morgan again. Its glow had steadied somewhat. You help us without knowing us, it observed. Morgan looked directly at where he thought the being's eyes might be. That's what humanity does at its best. We help. The luminous form brightened. Perhaps this is why the old stories speak of your kind. You know about humans? Wells asked, surprised. Not humans, but beings like you. Solid. Adaptable. Brave. The luminous glow pulsed gently. The stars have many children. Today, 2 families meet. As alarms continued to sound throughout the dying ship, the humans and Lumina began working together, racing against time while a greater threat loomed at the edge of the system. A threat that would soon bring these 2 species even closer together in the face of annihilation. The Venture's corridors bustled with frantic activity. Crew members who had expected a mission of peaceful exploration now found themselves preparing for refugees and a potential enemy encounter. Captain Morgan stood in the ship's main conference room, watching as the first recordings from the Lumina played on the large display screen. This was our home world, Luminara, explained Elar, the Lumina who had first greeted them. Unlike the others, Elar had quickly mastered the quantum communicator, allowing for clearer translation. The screen showed a beautiful planet with swirling blue oceans and land masses covered in what looked like crystalline forests that sparkled under twin suns. The sight was breathtaking, an alien world teeming with life unlike anything on Earth. Then the recording shifted. Dark shapes appeared at the edge of the Luminara system, massive objects moving with deliberate purpose. The harvesters, Elar said, the translator conveying a tone of dread. The objects resembled enormous mechanical insects, with multiple extending arms and central bodies that pulsed with red energy. They moved toward the outer planets of the system with frightening speed. "What are they?" Dr. Wells asked, unable to look away from the screen. "We do not know their origin," Elar replied. "They appeared in our neighboring systems first. We observed, we studied, we prepared, but it was not enough." The recording continued, showing the harvesters descending on the outermost planet. What happened next made everyone in the room flinch. The mechanical entities surrounded the planet, their arms extending down to the surface. Where they touched, the planet's surface simply disappeared. Layer by layer, the harvesters consumed everything: atmosphere, oceans, crust, mantle, all devoured with mechanical efficiency. They consumed 4 planets before reaching Luminara. Elar continued as the horrifying footage played. "We had time to evacuate some, but not all. Our ship carried 10,000 souls when we fled." Morgan's face was grim, and now only 47 remain. Elar's form dimmed in what they now recognized as sadness. "We were pursued, damaged. Many lost containment during the journey." Stone, who had been silently watching from the corner, finally spoke. "And you believe these harvesters are heading toward Earth?" "Yes," Elar confirmed. "They follow energy patterns through space. Your sun, your planet. They will be targets. They are systematic, thorough." Morgan turned to his navigation officer. "Davis, based on the harvester's trajectory and speed from the recordings, how long would they take to reach Earth?" Davis made some quick calculations. "If they maintain the speed shown here, approximately 2 Earth years." A heavy silence fell over the room. 2 years to prepare humanity for an enemy that consumed entire planets. "Captain," Wilson's voice came over the intercom, breaking the silence. "You need to come to engineering. Immediately." In the engineering section, Wilson stood with another Lumina, this one with a slightly greener tint to its glow. They were bent over a complex display, showing schematics unlike anything Morgan had seen before. "Captain," Wilson said, his eyes bright with excitement despite the dire situation. "This is Trill, their chief engineer. We've been working on integrating some of their technology with ours, and—" He paused, searching for words. "It's revolutionary." Trill's form pulsed as the translator conveyed its words. "Your propulsion systems are primitive but adaptable. With modifications, your vessel could achieve speeds your science considers impossible." Wilson nodded enthusiastically. "We're talking about reaching Earth in days, not weeks. And the same technology could be applied to defensive systems." Morgan looked at the schematics carefully. "Will these modifications interfere with the evacuation?" "No," Trill replied. "They will enhance it, but we must work quickly. Harvester scouts are already in this system." As if to punctuate Trill's warning, the ship's alert system suddenly blared. "Unknown vessels detected at the edge of the system," announced the tactical officer over the intercom, "moving at high velocity toward our position." Morgan rushed back to the bridge, where the main screen showed 3 small objects approaching, each resembling miniature versions of the planet-consuming horrors they had just witnessed in the recordings. "Time to intercept," Morgan demanded. "Approximately 4 hours at current speed," came the reply. Morgan turned to Elar, who had followed him to the bridge. "We need to evacuate your people now. How soon can you be ready?" "We have already begun compression procedures," Elar said. 1 hour is needed." "You have 30 minutes," Morgan replied firmly. "Stone, organize teams to guide the Lumina to their designated areas. Wells, stay with Elar and assist with any communication issues. Wilson, work with Trill on those propulsion modifications. I want us ready to move the instant everyone is aboard." As the crew rushed to comply, Morgan stared at the approaching harvester scouts on the screen. "And someone find me a way to slow those things down." The evacuation proceeded with controlled urgency. The Lumina, compressed into their most energy-efficient forms, resembled small spheres of intense blue light. Crew members guided them through the ship's corridors to specially prepared quarters where energy converters had been installed to sustain them. In engineering, Wilson and Trill worked frantically, making adaptations to the Venture's systems that would have taken Earth's scientists decades to develop. "This connection here," Trill instructed, indicating a point on the engine schematic. "Your materials can withstand the energy flow if reinforced with the alloy from our communication array." Wilson nodded, making the adjustments. "The damaged section of your ship, can we salvage more materials from it?" "Too dangerous," Trill replied. "Core instability growing. When harvesters arrive, they will destroy it first." On the bridge, Morgan watched the evacuation progress on multiple screens. "Status: 39 Lumina aboard," reported Stone. 8 more in transit. Their ship's systems are becoming increasingly unstable. Wells approached Morgan, her face showing a mixture of awe and concern. "Captain, the Lumina have shared more information about the harvesters. They believe these scouts are just collecting data. They don't have the capacity to consume planets like the larger units." "Small comfort," Morgan replied. "Can they attack us?" "Yes," Wells said grimly. "They're equipped with energy weapons designed to disable fleeing ships." A new alert sounded. "Captain, energy surge from the Lumina vessel," called the science officer. On the main screen, they could see sections of the massive alien craft beginning to break apart, blue energy spilling into space like liquid light. "Final evacuation teams, report," Morgan demanded. "Last group entering the airlock now," Stone's voice came through. "Docking tube integrity at 30% and falling." Morgan made a quick decision. "Begin separation procedures. Prepare for emergency departure." The minutes that followed were tense. The final group of Lumina made it aboard just as the docking tube collapsed. The Venture pulled away from the dying alien ship, its engines powering up for escape. "All Lumina accounted for," Stone reported. 47 beings secure." Morgan nodded in relief, then turned to Davis. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed." "Captain," Wilson called from engineering. "The modifications are ready. Activating new propulsion system now." The Venture shuddered, then seemed to leap forward with sudden acceleration that pushed everyone against their seats. Behind them, the Lumina vessel erupted in a massive explosion of blue energy. On the tactical display, the Harvester scouts altered course, now in pursuit of the Venture. "They're following us," the tactical officer announced. Morgan watched the approaching threat with steely determination. "Let's see how fast these harvesters really are. Wilson, give me everything those new engines have got." As the Venture surged forward with impossible speed, Morgan knew they were carrying not just 47 alien refugees, but a warning that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos. Earth needed to prepare, and they were the only ones who could deliver the message in time. Behind them, the remains of the Lumina vessel were consumed by the Harvester scouts, erasing the last trace of a civilization that had reached across the stars to find allies in their darkest hour. The journey back to Earth was nothing like the outbound trip, where before there had been anticipation and uncertainty, now there was urgency and purpose. The Venture, enhanced with Lumina technology, moved through space at speeds that defied human physics. Stars blurred past the viewports as the ship hurtled toward home, carrying its precious cargo of refugees and warnings. In the converted cargo bay that now served as the main Lumina living space, Dr. Wells sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by softly glowing blue spheres. Each contained a compressed Lumina, their energy forms stable but confined within the limited space of the human vessel. Elar, who had chosen to maintain a more humanoid form to facilitate communication, hovered nearby. "Your adaptation is remarkable," Wells said, making notes on her tablet. "How are the others handling the compression?" "It is uncomfortable but necessary," Elar replied, the translator conveying a tone of stoic acceptance. "Many have entered a dormant state to conserve energy." Wells looked around at the pulsing spheres. "And when we reach Earth, what will your people need?" "Space, energy, purpose." Elar's form brightened slightly. We were scientists, explorers, builders. We wished to contribute, not simply exist as refugees. Wells nodded. I can understand that. But I should warn you, humans can be complicated. Some will welcome you with open arms. Others will fear what's different. Fear is universal, Elar said. We felt it when the harvesters came. But so is hope. The luminous glow shifted to a warmer hue. Your Captain Morgan did not hesitate to help strangers. This gives us hope for your species. On the bridge, Morgan studied the latest reports from engineering. The Lumina modifications had transformed the venture in ways that would revolutionize human space travel. They had covered the distance back to Earth in just 6 days. A journey that should have taken weeks. Any sign of pursuit? Morgan asked, not looking up from his tablet. None, Captain, replied the tactical officer. We appear to have outrun the Harvester scouts. Morgan nodded, but his expression remained grim. Don't get comfortable. They know where we're headed now. Earth has just shown up on their radar. Davis turned from his navigation console. Earth Space Control has responded to our transmission. They're confused, sir, asking for clarification on our arrival time, since we're moving significantly faster than our log capabilities. Tell them we'll explain everything when we arrive, Morgan said, and inform them we'll need a secure orbital dock with specialized power systems according to the specifications we sent. Morgan stood and moved to the viewport, watching as the familiar shape of Saturn came into view. They were entering the home stretch now. Soon, they would reach Earth, and everything would change. Captain, Davis called out, we're receiving a direct transmission from United Space Command. Admiral Hayes wants to speak with you, privately. Morgan sighed. The debriefing was starting earlier than expected. I'll take it in my quarters. Admiral Hayes' stern face filled the screen in Morgan's cabin. Captain, your reports sound like something from a science fiction novel. Are you absolutely certain about these? Lumina and their claims about planet-consuming machines. I've seen the evidence myself. Admiral, Morgan replied firmly. The recordings show entire worlds being stripped to their cores, and the Harvester scouts we encountered were very real. Hayes rubbed his forehead. The Security Council is in an uproar. Half believe it's a hoax. The other half are calling for immediate militarization of space. With respect, sir, both reactions are understandable but insufficient. We need the luminous technology and knowledge if we're going to have any chance against the Harvesters. And you trust these aliens. You've known them for less than 2 weeks, Morgan. Morgan considered his words carefully. I trust that their home was destroyed. I trust that they risked everything to warn us. And I trust that we need allies in a universe that just got a lot more dangerous. Hayes was silent for a long moment. Very well. When you reach Earth orbit, you'll dock at Military Station Alpha. The Lumina will remain aboard while a joint scientific and military team assesses the situation. Sir, the Lumina aren't prisoners. They're refugees, and potentially our greatest asset. That decision isn't yours to make, Captain. Follow your orders. Hayes out. As the screen went dark, Morgan sat in the silence of his quarters, weighing his duty against what he knew was right. After a moment, he reached for the intercom. Dr. Wells, please come to my quarters. Bring Elar. Earth grew larger in the viewports as the venture approached its home planet. News of their arrival had somehow leaked to the public, and millions of people around the world were now watching live feeds of the ship's approach. Speculation ran wild about the mysterious passengers rumored to be aboard. In the ship's conference room, Morgan addressed his senior crew and Elar. Earth governments are frightened, he explained. They want to isolate you while they assess the threat. Elar's form dimmed slightly. We understand fear, but isolation will not prepare your world for what is coming. Wells spoke up. We need to show them that cooperation is the only path forward. The Lumina have technology that could help us defend Earth, but only if we work together. Wilson nodded enthusiastically. The propulsion modifications alone have advanced our capabilities by decades. Imagine what we could accomplish with their help on defensive systems. Morgan looked at each of them in turn. What I'm about to propose could end my career, possibly land us all in military detention. I believe the Lumina deserve better than to be treated as potential threats. And I believe Earth needs their help immediately, not after months of bureaucratic assessment. Stone, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. What are you suggesting, Captain? Morgan's eyes were determined. A direct appeal to the people of Earth. Dr. Wells and Elar will prepare a broadcast explaining the Harvester threat and offering the Lumina's assistance. We'll transmit it globally as we enter orbit. That's against direct orders, Stone pointed out, though his tone held no judgment. Yes, it is, Morgan acknowledged. Anyone who objects can be recorded as opposing this action. No one spoke. Then, one by one, they nodded their agreement. The venture entered Earth orbit 16 hours later. As Military Station Alpha prepared for their docking, the ship momentarily paused its approach. Across the planet below, communication systems simultaneously received and broadcast the same message. Humans around the world watched in awe as Elar's luminescent form appeared on their screens, speaking of distant worlds, terrible dangers, and the hope for alliance. Dr. Wells stood beside the alien, translating and explaining, her face earnest and determined. We come not to take, but to give, Elar's message concluded, not to conquer, but to cooperate. The stars have many children, and today, 2 families join against a common threat. The broadcast ended with Captain Morgan's steady voice. The choice before us is simple. Stand together or fall alone. 3 months later, Morgan stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Human-Lumina space station. Below, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware of the preparations being made to defend it. Beside him, Elar watched as a fleet of newly constructed ships, hybrids of human and Lumina technology, performed maneuvers in the distance. Your people learn quickly, Elar observed. Morgan smiled. Necessity is a powerful motivator. The harvesters will still come. Yes, Morgan agreed, but they'll find something they didn't expect. What is that? Morgan turned to look at Elar. 2 species, standing as one. Maybe that's something even the harvesters haven't encountered before. As they watched the Earth below, a brilliant blue against the blackness of space, Morgan felt something he hadn't expected when they first received that strange signal weeks ago. Hope. Humanity had looked to the stars for centuries, wondering if they were alone. Now they knew they weren't. And perhaps together, they might just survive to discover what other wonders and dangers awaited them among the stars. The distress call that had shaken the stars had done more than bring humanity its first contact. It had given them a future.